Welcome to the bonus. What I'm going to do today is show you a way to do the background, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The first thing I'm doing is taping off the area that I want the background to stay in. And you'll notice I'm coming down about half an inch into the drawing, into the painting. So I'm just eyeballing it. If you wanted to make sure that it was straight, you could definitely draw the lines on first. Apparently that's not how I roll. So instead what I'm going to do is use the edge of the paper as a guide. And I want to come in, say about like that. Now, let's just double check here. How off am I on my squares? Oh, I'm going to take something that I know is square, like this piece of paper, and just kind of check. I thought this one might be off, but honestly, okay. It's going to be fine. All right, so I'm just pressing firmly enough that I know there's contact. And the next thing I'm going to do is wake up my paint. I have decided that I'm going to use this beautiful Cobalt Teal directly wet on dry. That means we're not going to put water down first. We're just going to paint. And again, this is extra. You definitely don't have to do this, but I think it's going to look kind of cool. So all I want to do is paint this color down and try and stay outside the lines of the flower. I'm going to take them as shapes and just work my way from the top left of the page to the bottom right. Take some more paint. I'm not putting it on super heavy. This is not going to be a dark background. It's going to lighten up as it dries, but I think it's going to look really neat. And the tape is going to give us some nice crisp lines. Okay. The reason why I did that last is I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have so much paint on my brush that I flooded that little area. Come in here, and using the same technique that we did to do the inside, I'm going to put my brush down and just drag it around to create an outline, and then as quickly as you can, fill in the shape that you've made. You don't want to let any of the background dry before you have filled in that entire shape, otherwise it's going to look a little strange. So you want to try and work quickly but carefully. Also be mindful of your paint to water ratio. If you look, I'm getting a little bit darker, and that's just because I don't have as much water over here that I'm pulling from. So I'm getting more of the paint pigment on the brush at the bottom here than I did at the top. And by adding in some more water, I'm now having a little bit of trouble controlling where it flows because it's puddling. But that puddle is going to create something really beautiful when it dries. So don't worry about the puddles, just let them be and keep going. Same technique here. Try and not lift your brush and just draw it down. Wiggle it around the outline and then fill it in. Basically you want to paint quick enough that the outline has not dried before you fill in the shape. I'm not going to do this little part here probably until last, because I risk making a mistake, and I'd rather see if I even need to go in there once the whole thing's done than really mess up my flower. Okay, create that outline and keep moving through. Okay, I've added quite a bit of water there, so I just have to be careful. Make sure that I don't inadvertently go outside of this negative shape. Pull some of that water up so that we can fill this whole space here. Okay, and keep going. I think I'm I'm happy with how much paint is on the brush there, so I'm going to quickly do this smaller area. Draw around the petal and then connect. What you can start to see where this paint is drying already is it's granulating. That means that it's going to have a really interesting texture and that we're not going to be able to predict how that texture looks. So this might be challenging. Just do the best that you can. We're going to do the same technique that I used to do the inside. Just wiggle my brush around, try and push it into the areas that go in and pull it back the areas that come out until you have mostly done a good job of outlining that shape. If it's not perfect, don't worry. It's handmade. You did it with love. You took your time. It's gonna look great. Okay, I need a little bit more paint for this area here. I'm dangerously close to getting drips there because my page is on an angle, but I need to do a little bit better with my water management when I'm coming down to these areas that are going to puddle. Try not to have quite as much water to pigment ratio on my brush. If you're worried about a drip, remember you can always take a tiny little piece of paper and gently go in and use it to wick up that extra moisture, not dabbing. If you dab, you'll remove the pigment. You just want to remove the water. Okay. Keep going. Oop, I should have closed this shape first before I did that, just to make sure that the outline didn't dry before I got to it. We're more than halfway done. A little bit too much water. Okay, fill in this shape at the bottom, and then we just have to do this right side. I'm going to check and see. Yep, I'm happy with how much paint is on my brush. It's not too drippy, so I can confidently go in here and with a very light touch, encourage the paint into the negative space. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to, with just the lightest of touch, paint that negative shape. When I say negative shape, if you haven't heard of that term before, there's negative and positive shapes when you're drawing. The negative space is the area without the representational content. So in this case, the negative space is where the white of the page was left, and the positive shape is the flower and the leaves. So we're working on filling the negative space around this coneflower. Just grabbing a little bit more paint. It was just a tiny bit too watery on the page, so I'm grabbing from the area that I know has less water on it. Okay, there's a teeny tiny little area there you could fill in, or you could leave it. If you're not confident, just leave it. White on the page when you have watercolor is not a faux pas, it's the norm. You could, when you're looking at these flowers and see those white areas, look at it as the light of the sun shining and reflecting off this plant, which is alive and is reflective. So we're just finishing up the shape, making sure that I didn't miss any spots, and I think that I could probably go back in here and put a little bit of blue there. So yeah, even I'm not able to really control as much as I'd like those small areas. So I'm just going to leave it at that and let it dry. Before you remove the tape, you want to make sure that this is completely dry. Make sure that when you touch the page, it's no longer cool to the touch, because that means that it's still damp. So we're going to take the tape off together so you can see how I do that. But first, let it dry, and because this is granulating paint and we want to see what beautiful things it does on its own, please don't use a hairdryer to dry this off quickly. Just let it naturally dry. This is now dry, and we're ready to peel off the tape. I think the most important thing to remember is to take it off slowly and at an angle. So I'm going to peel it off, and you'll see I'm pulling it at a 45-degree angle, slowly. This is so that we don't rip the paper as we remove the masking tape. I'm going to do the same thing again. Okay. Ooh, it's almost like an unboxing. It's so exciting. Okay, pulling. Oh, I ripped the paper there. Pulling directly up. Slowly. Oh my gosh. It's so cute. I was just in my garden, so if you see plant leaves, me, that is why. Okay, we're almost there. It's gonna be so cute. Okay. And this time I'm going to pull down. There you go. What do you think? Does it just take that up just one level higher? And it wasn't that hard to do. You just have to be patient and careful. I'm really excited about how this looks, and I think that we should try this again, and maybe with a few different techniques. I've also got salt that we could try. Like, we could try spraying water or alcohol, and I have metallic inks. So there's lots of fun things that could be done, but let's try them on the next project. See you there!